Hello, everyone. Today, we're going to start talking a little bit about Chengdu and the addition of Chen.
After that, we got some drama to cover before we talk about some NA teams, which are going to be pretty sad with their performance last weekend.
Also, can't forget that we are going to have to cover the Viol2t suspension and some of the misdemeanors there, I would have to say. I'm Avast. This is Jayne, and welcome to Contested. Hey, everybody. I had a cup in the frame, and we're live in the Frontier Communications
Nobody
Studio.
would have noticed if you didn't say it.
Live in Dallas, Texas. Thank you, Jayne. And I am also Avast. This is Jayne.
I
Welcome
always
back,
love
everybody.
being reminded of that one.
Yeah.
Where are we?
We always have to remind ourselves each day we slip further.
Yeah, I've got it on, you got positive affirmations on sticky notes stuck to the mirror, and I've got one, your name is, and just, sometimes I forget,
It does. I mean, it's like myself, I forget my cup. It was very Game of Thronesy, with the Starbucks cup
Oh, yeah.
on set. That's how it felt for me. Minus the fact that I, a lot less revered, I'd say. A lot smaller media presence.
Then Game of Thrones?
Yeah.
Yeah. Few orders of magnitude there.
But, we got to work our way up.
Yeah, we'll get there.
We got to work our way up. It's always just it's a process.
Well, you know what has better writing than Game of Thrones Season 8? It's The Favor 60-second recap. As we approach the Countdown Cup playoffs, things are starting to get weird. The Chengdu Hunters is starting to see some results thanks to the addition of a new coach who helped pick up 2 wins this weekend against the flip-flopping Seoul Dynasty, as well as the Hangzhou Spark. Their new coach, Chen, has been rumored to be working with the Hunters for all 3 of the last games, which have also all been wins. So maybe we're looking at a new era for the Kings of Chaos. Unlike the Spark, who, as I said, lost to the Chengdu Hunters, the New York Excelsior came out with an amazing performance against the Guangzhou Charge, 3-0ing them in a pretty spectacular fashion. Shanghai also just barely prevented London's reverse sweep, but the Spitfire are showing results worth keeping an eye on. Overall, there's a lot of reverse sweeps this weekend. On the western side of the world, the Gladiators had a one-way ticket through Sadtown all the way to Depressionville as they were reverse swept by the Philadelphia Fusion, and then with their mentals freshly boomed, they got disassembled by the Paris Eternal. Rough weekends for them, certainly. Speaking of boomed mentals, following the ridiculous C9 against the Fuel last weekend, the Outlaws are also in shambles following a 3-1 shellacking against, of all teams, the Washington Justice. With a game against the Shock coming up this weekend, there is a real possibility of them going 0-4 during the Countdown Cup. TLDR, hope for teams in APAC, but only sadness for North America.
Wow. That was very well written. That's nice. I like it when you show up to work and the script is done.
Yeah, instead of just like putting all my work onto you because I forgot.
I mean, I've worked retail before. It's as ex-Dallas Fuel player Brandon, a.k.a. Siegel, once said to me when I was walking the halls during Overwatch League Season 1, and I caught him in the players' lounge. And I said, Siegel, how are you feeling about these days? And, as myself a Permage player at the time, this is before that the great Taimu shit incident occurred. So before XCC got to play Diva, or not XCC, Siegel. And I was like, so how do you feel about these days? And he's like, I just work here. And then he walked away.
Some days you just collect a paycheck.
Yeah.
And that's about all you can hope for.
Well, you just got to show up, punch in your time card, and you got to head home.
You are a warm body in a seat.
Exactly
Can't be fined if you at least get that far.
Exactly so. Siegel said it best. I respect the wisdom, the down to earth, the something about salt. It's ionic. It's NaCl.
Yep.
There's probably more to that. Salt of the earth. That's what it is. Earth and salt goes together like that. It's how I don't know my idioms.
No.
I don't know my idioms, but I do know my words.
Yeah.
Speaking of knowing my words, and speaking also...
Where are you going with this?
Where am I going with this? Well, because I'm trying to wheel it about. And speaking of wheels, what we have to know is that Chengdu has had a very much a wheel about performance. Being down, now being up, 3 straight wins in a row. And the only way I think we can really talk about them moving forward is to use the most scientific method possible, the most scientific tool, the wheel of Chengdu.
Wheel of Chengdu!
Hello, we're back on this, the wheel of Chengdu, aka representing Chengdu. But we have the new coach at the center, Chen there. He's going to be, his visage is going to be depicted right there. And I feel like for us to really figure out where Chengdu is going to go from here, Jayne, we're going to have to do 2 spins of the wheel.
Yeah.
I will spin one and I shall read and we will see. Do we agree? Do we accept the wisdom of the conch, aka the wisdom of the wheel, and then you will do so much the same.
Yeah, Chengdu has been, we called them the Kings of Chaos, but it's really been a roll of the dice or a spin of the wheel about how they've been performing. So, yeah, we'll have to see. Blessed be Chen, whether or not the Chengdu Hunters are going to perform or what's coming up, what is in store for them this coming weekend.
This is how I feel like the best way to really know them. And I think, shall I spin first?
You're definitely.
I shall spin first. So let us see what Chen here, situated in the center, will give to us. And give that so far that he hasn't already given to Chengdu.
It's the Wheel of Chengdu!
And now I turn, because I cannot read. We talked about this.
You were making fun of me for not being able to read this.
Wins Community Countdown Cup.
Wins the entire thing.
Wins it in the APAC region, of course.
You know what? It's not completely unheard of. And, that's completely the wrong word. It's not completely impossible. Because they do have 3 wins. They're looking a lot better. Ameng is actually back onto ball. They're not trying to play anything else. Now, there is the slight opportunity, for things to go awry because we're moving away from the hero pools that currently exist and going to completely unlimited, which includes the reintroduction of Mei and Orisa. So if Ameng can stay on that ball, he's been outplaying people even when the opponent has a Sombra, but, if they play like Sombra, Mei, Orisa, is that Orisa returning to the meta going to be too strong, preventing them from playing what's currently finding them success, or is meta inertia gonna, allow them to maintain these compositions?
I love the reference
just for you. Just for you. That's really the question. But they do have big wins here. They beat the New York Excelsior, and then the New York Excelsior, they made some changes, but the New York Excelsior beat the Guangzhou Charge, who won the Summer Showdown. So, if you look at the Wheel of Suck here, which is different than the Wheel of
And it goes into this wheel, which just follows into the Wheel of Time.
Yeah. So it's like, we don't really know how good the Hunters are. They're all in the upswing. Chen has apparently been there for like 3 weeks. They're already looking this good. So is this kind of just a temporary spike in power, the kind of thing we saw when the Houston Outlaws did their reorganization? Or is Chen just getting started with his team? But, them winning the Countdown Cup, not completely impossible.
Also, I realized that I told our producer to write Community Countdown Cup, and I realized I had mashed together two different events because I had done the Community Countdown. Remember the one for season 1 or season 2 or whatever, and then there was also the Countdown Cup, and so I had mashed them together. Much like my brains
This is
are
like
mashed.
the cup on the floor. One of the things, if you just don't acknowledge it, nobody in chat will notice.
But you know what? I feel like it's worth acknowledgement because it's
Never
just as ridiculous as the wheel itself is by putting on just the thing
community
that's
countdown
sort of right, but not quite right. But I do say that, with the hero pool shifting for Chengdu, and even with the new Chen at the head, as you can say, at the head. It has to be seen if they're actually going to deliver results still, right?
Yeah.
Once the metas have shifted. I mean, Mei and Orisa come back and it shifts. And Orisa's just the best main tank in the game still. If they somehow continue to have great success and maybe even continue to force ball and make it work, then
they should just give a halt, take it away from Orisa, give it to ball. Everything's good.
Yeah, obviously so. Especially since they've, there has very likely to be any balance changes in between now and the actual beginning of the cup.
I mean, they released that weird patch that only had Genji reversion, and then they retracted the patch or something, so we don't know what's up with that.
Just yoinked it out.
Just yoink, no patch.
They just did the quarter scam, for the vending machine, where they throw it in there trying to get the free soda, and then they yoink it back out. And that was just to make Genji main sad. That was all it. And they got it. They didn't have to pay anything. Didn't have to even put a patch out. Didn't have to commit the server space.
I prefer the vending machine from the first episode of Futurama.
But that's true.
I'm going to give it a spin.
Give it a spin.
And then we'll see what the Wheel of Chengdu says this time. Now, see, this is the hard part, because I have to read it upside down.
Well, you just turn it towards you.
It says, wins Community Countdown Cup. What do you think, Avast?
That's the universe signaling twice that they're going to win the cup.
Yeah. The Community Countdown Cup.
The Community Countdown Cup. Well, the community is also involved with the cup.
Are they?
So that's the wheel says that.
Are they counting down?
They are counting down for the first Chengdu victory in a cup.
Well,
of sorts.
We cannot argue with the Wheel of Chengdu.
Their voices are raised. Their voices are raised in unison, saying, "Please, Chen, lead the Chengdu Hunters to a victory." And he will look down upon them in their filth, and he will say, "I will grant you this."
Do we even respin, or is it just fate?
I don't know. It depends. If we spin again, then we could throw the entire order of the universe out of whack.
True,
but we also
if we spin it and we win the Chengdu Countdown Community Cupper, again 3 times that. That basically guarantees.
Divine.
Chat, are we spinning again?
It's divine.
It's divine.
I would say get a third person to spin.
All right, Danny, get up here.
Let's go.
Okay, Danny.
We're having an editor / camera person /
Danny, give it a spin.
That cut out the Chen face. Let's go.
The Wheel of Chengdu. And it says...
What does it say?
Oh, Ameng learns a new hero. Yeah, that's completely impossible.
Okay. Well, thank you, Danny. Thank you. So we have 2. They win the cup, and 1. They Ameng learns a new hero.
Like Genji?
Could be Genji.
He could become the U Super.
He could be. He could be. Could very well be. I mean, that's what they say when they go to they call it the super kitchen. They stand in line as opposed to the soup kitchen.
Is this telling us that Ameng's going to actually have to play Orisa in order for the Chengdu Hunters?
I don't know what this means, honestly. I'm going to be real with you. Chin's face stares at me and it looks into the windows of my soul and it says, do not worry. But I do worry for the Chengdu Hunters sometimes.
Well, this weekend is still qualifiers, so we'll have to bring the Wheel of Chengdu back to figure out next week when they actually go into the playoffs.
If it comes true, then we know for a fact that the wheel works.
Yes.
We know for a fact that if they win the cup or if Ameng plays a new hero, the wheel works.
But until next time, that has been the Wheel of Chengdu.
There it is. Take it off. Get it out of here. It's Aura scares me. You're putting it over there. That's good. I've had too much close exposure to the wheel.
Yeah.
It's like a radiated.
Yeah, see, nobody will notice it. I'm just making a point about your cup.
That's fair. That's fair.
Well, see, it's invisible, chat. The wheel has gone away. You can't even see it.
You know what else has gone away?
What? What have
Violet. Violet has gone away. For one match. The San Francisco Shock Violet has... I was like, why is he... Okay. Well, so Violet has been suspended. Violet has been suspended and has said some very mean things. Some hurtful things, I'd say, even in the ranked environment. There's been some people putting forth the concept that maybe he didn't understand exactly the words that was being said due to the language barrier and such, but there was a message in the Shock Discord talking about how that Violet has been suspended from the upcoming match versus the Houston Outlaws and also be receiving a fine. And I have to say, as much as bad behavior should be corrected, what a serendipitous time for it to do so.
Word of the day alert! Serendipitous.
Yeah, serendipitous.
That's your word of the day, chat.
There it is.
I'm going to have to get an idiom bell as well, just for you.
That should be less of a bell, more of like a trash bin that you that I throw and miss it into, or it's like a garbage
trash
fire.
bin with the bell, but serendipitous.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the band that came in did actually come from the San Francisco Shock, not Blizzard. So now this is an extension, like this drama, I guess, and this more interest towards Violet, I think, started with the PvP drama originally when there was that call out.
For sure.
Yeah, there was the call out. I'm out of breath. Don't ask me why, but
I know why.
No, you don't.
I do know why.
Nope.
It depends if the viewers will notice.
The viewers didn't notice.
Yeah.
But yeah, it started with the PvP drama where PvP accused Violet of throwing. And then everyone, including Bad Patch Mari, also memed on PvP because he was one-tricking Junkrat in GM and top 500 games like he does.
Well, it's also because, to be fair, the rank system's a little rusted with the MMR, and PvP himself admits that he wasn't really supposed to be at that level because he hadn't been playing Overwatch for a very long time.
And that was an entirely... This is just kind of like this weird drama narrative that's been moving from topic to topic to topic. And, even after this, like, the accusations went towards Violet that he was throwing, and then related to that was that he was, I don't remember what he was originally accused of.
It was pretty much, it was
I was telling somebody to like
very
off themselves, right?
Yes, being very toxic in the ranked
So this
environment.
time he's using some colorful language, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, an idiom won't be pardon my French.
And that's color with a U.
Yes, that is color with a U. So, and it's kind of amazing the amount of people who have been defending Violet. Like, it hasn't been a universal outcry against his behavior. A lot of kind of excuses being made in the fact that, he's Korean, he doesn't understand that word is offensive. It's the equivalent to babo and things like that.
And likely has heard the word around them a lot, and as someone that's learning English might not understand exactly the context of said word. But it's still not a good excuse,
Yeah.
Especially what's interesting, too, that people brought up is that Shock's the one to divvy out the punishment. Blizzard and Overwatch League himself hasn't, when I feel like Overwatch League has given out punishments for less.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Certainly.
Which, to be fair, I think is actually good in a way, because I feel like in some ways it's best left to just, if Overwatch League perhaps directs the teams like, hey, you should have this punishment, then we don't have to, right? Mm-hmm. I feel like it's almost like a PR strategy
It's definitely a PR strategy, and it's a very good one. This is just going to be a lingering topic. People are going to just like keep looking at Viol2t's behavior. They're going to keep doing this until they get some sort of response. And this is one of those things that kind of just eventually blows up and goes viral. And the San Francisco Shock, taking a stance just like quiet those threads, because now the people who are defending Viol2t don't have to make up excuses as to why he's using that language and acting that way. It can be like, oh, San Francisco Shock already dealt with it. Or if he does it again, then, there's the people who are defending kind of don't have an excuse. It's like Viol2t now knows that this stuff is bad. He has been formally at least told, if not reprimanded, that this stuff is not acceptable.
And they said that they will also be working with Viol2t to monitor his in-game behavior and ensure that's the last incident. So hopefully there's some sort of training that goes on, right?
Yeah.
Because it's okay. Sometimes someone could say something insensitive, especially if it's on their native language, and there's not an excuse, but it is a learning opportunity. But it can't happen again, right?
Yeah,
it shouldn't happen again.
And huge props for the San Francisco Shock for not waiting for Blizzard or the Overwatch League to actually take action here. Even from the San Francisco Shock's perspective, they recently signed on a new sponsor as well. Herman Miller is now sponsoring the San Francisco Shock, and sponsors are not going to be happy with players like Viol2t using that kind of language or acting that way. It's not a good look. So, all things around, good on the San Francisco Shock taking the initiative, and I'm glad we kind of have
But I have to say that this is really good. It's always bad timing for something like this to happen. But considering that Viol2t will be suspended for the game versus Houston Outlaws only so far.
Oh, no. We still have to play
play Twilight now? Twilight Moth?
This is also, San Francisco Shock maybe also kind of seeing we're playing against a team that's struggling and mentally boomed. And if the Overwatch League or the Blizzard does decide to punish Viol2t and give us a suspension, this is probably the best week so let's just preemptively suspend him for a game that doesn't matter or isn't a high risk one, so that when we don't eat a suspension during playoffs or postseason.
Yeah, it's a good time to do it. It's a really good time to do it. So overall, a bad situation and toxicity in ranked, I feel like, is something that really is swept under the rug for Overwatch League players.
Either that or not just swept under the rug, but just so many people are desensitized to it.
Yeah, they are. And I think it's unfortunate because as someone that, I'm going to be honest, probably at some point, I definitely have never once said anything bad because I've been very sensitive about my language. Yeah. But at times, I remember I've had a very heated argument with XQC one time in Ranked in 2016. And I called him just really stupid. And he's really dumb.
You called him really stupid?
Yeah. But the thing is that it's the nature of hyper-competitive players, I think, especially when they're younger and online, where the, being anonymous really takes you away from, it's way different if you're sitting in someone's face and yelling at them and calling them stupid, right?
Yeah.
It's it just makes it really easy for people that are across the monitor, and that's the same with any sort of, even with also public figures, to get yelled at and screamed at. And for players that also, it's a very hyper-competitive thing, and every ranked match to them matters, especially when you're writing up. It can be a struggle to remain positive.
Yeah.
And I think we get swept under the rug a lot, and people are like, oh, and really it should be an ongoing conversation of maybe players should just stop playing so much ranked. Ranked is not a healthy environment. And obviously then we go back though to the arms race of the less ranked you play, the less active your mechanics are going to be, the less grinded out, perfected your mechanics are going to be. So it's just this terrible arms race.
Yes.
But then everyone hates the race because it's running on a bed of Legos and barefoot, because that's ranked to the Overwatch League player base. And there's just no really easy way to solve it without sort of mandates of what you can and cannot do with your free time and how much ranked you're supposed to play and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And these hyper-competitive personalities being thrown into it.
Yeah.
So the only way to do it is just not be bad, be toxic.
just don't be bad.
Just don't be bad.
But when you're talking about Viol2t or anything like that, the fact that I don't think individuals like Viol2t, people who are on championship level Overwatch League teams, are ever going to be satisfied with their teammates in rank.
True.
It's just not going to happen.
They won't.
They kind of have to change or lower their expectations, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Not only are you having PvP, who came back and was pretty mad with the decay system, I haven't played in months, why am I still at 4200 or something like that? But even the people who do stick at 43 or 4400 sort of thing, those guys still are going to be real, they're not going to be up to Viol2t standards. He's always going to have something to flame them for, even if they are 43, 44. So it's
so just stop flaming.
Or
at least flame people without using bad words. That's the bare minimum.
I don't know. I'm super anti-confrontational in rank. So if somebody starts flaming, it's just mute. I will just play out the end game to the best of my ability and just GG, go next.
No, for sure. That's the best way to go about it. But it's just the situation of ranked in general. But hopefully we'll have some correctional behavior, because it's not a good trend for Viol2t.
No, it's really not.
And hopefully that will be corrected and done with. And honestly, I'm tired of really talking about the the environment of ranked, because the reality for me at least is like we should deal with toxicity when we find it. We shouldn't allow it to exist. But I think it's almost impossible to ever stop it. Like really, people are just going to continue to be toxic.
I mean, the main thing with like ranked itself is like obviously like, there's no real stakes, and everybody approaches it with their own purpose. So it's kind of like if you want to use game theory, like ranked itself is kind of like an infinite game. You can go into that playing any game you want. You can choose the game, I want to get the highest SR possible. You can choose the game to improve a hero as much as possible. You can choose the game of wanting to one trick or play the game without crosshairs or without audio or
with really large crosshairs
or with your
if you're
ST unbound, right? But there's some people who approach ranked differently, and there's no kind of shared stakes or goals. So it's going to be that conflict about like people going into ranked and they have to play on a team with people who have other goals. Like,
this is literally just like Overwatch kids. Just think about this as this is just your model you win. Yeah. This is it. Ranked, that's your model you win. When you're talking,
if you can solve diplomacy, compassion, and empathy in ranked, you can pretty much solve
you could be a world
peace.
Leader. You could change you could do everything that you wanted. You could take us to Mars.
Yep.
If you can be nice and ranked, if you can talk to like Genji main 3920 underscore 1993 and be like, hey, bro, stop calling me dumb and stop being a meanie, then you can fix the world. I truly, it's possible.
That's 100% true.
It's possible. The skills carry over.
Yeah. Until then, listen to some chill music, mute the guys who are toxic, and just please enjoy game.
Yeah.
Why you have to be mad?
You have to be mad?
It's just game.
Well, there's Violet. Done, dusted, taken care of. There's that topic.
At least for one game.
For one game, episode. Yeah. For one game and today's episode. But I think an equally... I'm going to bust out another word, but you're not allowed to ring the bell this time.
I'm not.
You've already rung the bell.
It was word of the day. It's not words of the day.
That's true. And equally...
I still don't know what serendipitous means.
It's just like a good time.
It's one of those things I was like, I know how to use it in context, but do I actually know what it means? No.
True. I'm going to say mercurial topic. The next mercurial topic is the Los Angeles Gladiators. The Los Angeles Gladiators today. They showed up this weekend, and they kind of actually had a pretty okay game versus the Philadelphia Fusion. They lost in the end, as Gladiators often do, especially the Los Angeles Gladiators. And it was off a really good performance, I'd say, from like OG and Kevster.
Yep.
They had like a really great time overall. They've been playing Mirror on Zarya over not playing Bishu or Space, which is kind of crazy, but it's not unexpected because
Mirror's been very good at Zarya for a very long time.
And we've had a lot of discussions as well that now that Diva's not really being played, DPS players on Zarya don't have to worry about their Graz meeting all the time, which was like the biggest crux of Mirror before, as someone that cast him and watched him play Zarya. He was really, really good at Zarya, but he just threw grabs away at a crazy rate. And that disappeared when there's no Diva on the field. And then they went and got absolutely stomped by
Paris Eternal.
Yeah,
that one was not pretty.
Which you would argue, at least, I think Eternal are a better team than Fusion, but I do think they're in the same tier.
Yeah, certainly.
And so you would expect a similar performance from the Gladiators.
Yeah, there's the difference here. When you go into kind of like a double weekend like this, do you prepare for one team? Do you try and equally, do you half-ass both jobs or full-ass one job? So, maybe they just put more effort into preparing for the Philadelphia Fusion. Obviously you can't really prepare for Carpe clutching like he did on Lijiang Tower. But, there's that plus the additional kind of exhaustion and fatigue of playing the second game of the weekend, going into Paris. And, they got destroyed.
It's true. Maybe the one cheek method is enough. They need to be double cheeked up.
Yep.
For the
Both
next
cheeks
one.
necessary.
Both cheeks, 100%. Yep. But I have to say that also it's a good adaptation from the Fusion. The Fusion, they came out, they really didn't know how they wanted to play exactly versus Gladiators. They were also trying to play like that Brig Zin style a lot. And then they just said, actually, we're going to put Alarm on Zin because that guy pounds. And then we're going to get or we're going to play actually a lot of it. They also played a decent amount of Moira too. They swapped in Astro, and Astro was kind of the hero. His Lucio was really, really good. Played a lot of Lucio Moira. And then the next game, they played almost exclusively Alarm on Zin, and they played a lot of Astro on the Brigida. So I do think they actually adjusted their expectations a lot. And they said, like, listen, if we're going to play Zin comps, we need to put Alarm on Zin because he's our best Zin. And Astro's good enough to where he can flex between Brigida and Lucio. And he's had some incredible performances on Lucio in particular, where that is sort of where we need to be pushing ourselves and where we need to be trying to form our style a lot. And even tried to experiment a little bit away from the Genji at times and play more like Sombra Tracer. So I actually think the narrative that people have been forming about, well, Gladiators inconsistent is actually should be more focused in a way on Fusion have shown some really good adaptations this weekend and are becoming even scarier than before, I think, because they're starting to utilize their flexibility and the depth of their roster. So I'm a little bit bigger on Fusion than I was before, even after they did so well in the last cup. And everyone should be just kind of excited wanting to get out of hero pools too, because hero pools are going away next week. It's the start of just no restrictions, and we're going to see some really, really interesting things. Now, Orisa will be back. Sigma will be back 100%. We're sort of probably going to move towards that direction, but it's going to be a great time to watch some of these upper echelon teams like Shock, like Fusion, and like Paris, and see where they move. And if these teams that we're hoping to get better are actually going to get better, or if they're just going to continue to just be meh.
Do you think anyone else is in conversation for that kind of like top 3 between Paris, Fusion?
Right now in an A, probably not.
Yeah,
I would say.
In my brain, it's still those 3 kind of sitting in A tier for... Albert had a weird comment, which I'm going to ask.
Well, that's what Albert does.
Anyway, Albert does have weird comments, but he says, how do you prepare for a team that hadn't played yet? But Fusion and Eternal both played the weekend before, and I checked that. So I'm not sure what you were talking about, Albert, but let us know.
Did they play that way before?
Yeah.
Let me go. Let me see here.
Or is he saying that Fusion weren't able to prepare for Gladiators?
That could be it, right? Because looking back,
Fusion did not. Did they not play Toronto Defiant?
Well, I'm looking through. So for the 19th, they didn't play, and on the 18th,
they didn't
play.
Right. I got my
they didn't. I think you mixed them up.
I did.
I think you mixed them up.
I did. Good point. Good point. Good point, Albert.
Good point. It is tough to prepare, but also I think it sort of cuts both ways, right? Well, actually, I guess it doesn't really, because Gladiators played those days, didn't they? Let's see. Yeah, they did play. So actually, there's tape out on the Gladiators. There's not tape out on the Fusion. So hard to prepare for those games.
Good point, Albert. So thank you for the comment.
It is. But I think if anything, then it's almost, to me, it feels... It also cuts both ways in the fact that when Fusion didn't get to play, they didn't play, they had no tape on them. But the best way to test your strength is in matches, on average, and you also are going to come across, like, in your prep time, you're not always going to get to play every team that you want to see all the comps. So I think it's sort of like just in something about like, okay, Gladiators couldn't prepare for Fusion, maybe, but also Fusion weren't able to fully prep to their fullest if they didn't play last week, in my opinion, because I think
that is a good
limited.
Point. Yes.
Yeah, you get limited if you're not playing
There's
matches.
So many good points happening around me. I'm the only one without a good point.
We're pointed today.
Aww.
We're extremely pointed.
Out. I need to have a good point before the episode's out, or I'm going to go cry.
But that's the distillation of the whole thing.
Yeah.
Fusion, I think, looking really adaptable, which is exciting to me as we go into the next weekend and no hero pools. While Gladiators had some okay moments, but then they zeppelined and they crashed and burned.
So just before we transfer over to the next segment, people in chat are arguing about whether the patch happened. So the patch was released, and then it was
taken away.
Recanted.
What Jeff gives, he can take away.
Yeah, so the patch was live for a very short period of time, and then they just yoinked it back. So the patch is not currently live. It went live, but it is currently not, because they reversed that. So argument settled.
There it is.
There it is.
He is the alpha and the omega, and he will shape your fate, chat. So be on the lookout for that. But moving forward, I think we sort of talked, we touched on the Chengdu or the Chengdu now with their new coach and their performance a bit. But we have to keep eyes on New York here a little bit. And they came back and 3-0'd the Charge this weekend, right?
Yes, they did.
And I feel like for New York, that is pretty good.
And like, so you know me as a very large investor in New York stocks.
I'm more of a shorter, I feel like you short New York.
No, early on I was short New York.
That's true. Have you gone long now?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was saying that I was looking to, the pieces were finally there for them to assemble that full puzzle. And we saw some of the things, we saw probably a higher risk-taking New York than we had previously. And then last week, the week before this one, where they actually did beat out the Guangzhou Charge, they played the Chengdu Hunters and lost. And it really looked like they tried to go for more of that proactive style, really aggressive style, but then found a lot of trouble in the chaos that was the Chengdu Hunters. This week, Mano, who I have been just really kind of, I don't think Mano has been as good of a main tank as people kind of trump him up to be. But this week he came out with an absolute stellar performance on the Wrecking Ball. And then they also played Bianca as well. So they were actually able to play that really aggressive, proactive style. And they looked very dominant. Some of the stuff that people were hoping, praying for the New York Excelsior to actually change up, we saw some of that stuff, and they managed to make it work against the Charge.
I feel like I had this take on my own channel, but I felt like I was a little disappointed that Bianca had received such little playtime in New York.
Yeah.
Because as someone that had heard really raving reviews on Bianca and also had casted Bianca, and I'd seen sort of Bianca's performance, I was like, wow, Bianca, I feel like is a pretty good player, and was benched for Hoppa most of the time, where I feel like Hoppa is sort of one of that old guard of like, Hoppa's good at off-tank. Mm-hmm. There is no doubt about it. Hoppa's good at off-tank. But Hoppa's true strength lied in the fact that he could play off-tank well and play DPS well. He could do them both. And I feel like Bianca was sort of that person, if they were super reliant to where we're in a very deep meta of like, we want to be just, our off-tank is going to be key. It's going to be integral. It's going to be like a central component. We're not going to have a lot of rotations in and out, and we're not going to be worried too much on the hero pool of said person. Bianca was going to be that person for New York, which is why it was so odd to me that they hadn't been playing Bianca, and seeing Bianca come into play, I felt like it definitely lent itself towards allowing Mono to be a lot more aggressive.
Absolutely.
And also to be allowing New York to be a lot more initiative as well, because your tanks are the ones that do all the initiating. Your tanks are the ones that are rolling the D20s and getting it done more often than not. And I feel like Bianca was that solution for New
Absolutely.
York.
Yeah. So just like to point out that, of course, that means that the New York Excelsior is showing improvement faster than the Hangzhou Spark. So.
My Spark stocks. My Spark stocks. They're plummeting. They're plummeting. My Spark stonks are plummeting.
Yeah, they got 3-0'd by the Hunters. I mean, everybody's getting
someone
made
by like Hunters, a truly tragic cinematic too, where like replace like it's like Thanos like throwing Gamora like into the pit for the Soul Stone, but it's like Architect and Krusty. And so it was just tragic. Like I feel so bad because I had such high hopes for Spark, and
you know what else was tragic?
Go on.
The Houston Outlaws performance this past weekend.
You know, I feel like sometimes I'm on a loop. You know, I feel like I'm running around in a circle, and I always come back towards a particular narrative. And one of those narratives that always pops up when in the Choose Your Own Adventure book is the Houston Outlaws are playing really bad.
Yep.
And that was the case this weekend.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
I even ducked out of my own stream. Honestly, I kind of people left. And
I still bad.
Well, I still caught the game. I just wasn't streaming it.
Yeah.
And
Solomon was probably streaming it.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
I wonder what Solomon's opinion on. Solomon, what was your opinion on this game?
And I just wasn't impressed with Houston, I must say. I mean, Blase had really cool speakers in his sunglasses, which he showed on Twitter. I was impressed with that. I was like, that's cool.
More impressed with his sunglasses than his gameplay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Houston as a whole.
That is a high bar. Solomon says, it was a game.
It was a game.
Yeah, that was certainly a game of Overwatch. Jigsaw looking like the best DPS on the Houston Outlaws.
Yeah, the 3 melee kills.
4. It was 4.
4 melee
kills. 4
kills.
melee kills. Yeah, that was something else.
I don't. Someone asked me, like, who finishes with less wins at the end of the season, Boston or Justice? And I was like pretty confidently feeling like Boston for sure, and this one kind of puts me in that direction for sure. Now that Justice can randomly just chop off the ankles of the Houston Outlaws, where they just forget how to play Overwatch sometimes, and it's just nasty. Like I can't even make comparisons of like where this team narrative is going, because I feel like Houston has been like this weird circle of, okay, we're showing some success, and then we're back to where we started.
Yeah.
And I just don't even know where I'm supposed to go with that team. Where, like, how am I supposed to feel about this team? It's like we're climbing the mountain, then we slide back down. We get bogged. And it seems like there's just a lack of consistent direction.
Yeah, I don't know. Like Houston, again, with me kind of like cheering for weird teams, you know, obviously, even from the very start, I was like, Fusion's going to be pretty good this year. They have been. But I really thought that Houston Outlaws would be better. Like we saw, especially Dante was looking to be probably one of the most improved players in the
hydration
league.
main tank has been surprisingly good.
So even though, you know, he's definitely had some moments TM that didn't go well and kind of betrayed him as not being a main tank extraordinaire sort of thing. But like overall, his play has been serviceable and improving. And Dante has been really kind of pushing up to be one of the higher competitors on that DPS role. So it's like, you know, things were going their way. They were gaining some momentum. And then I'm not sure what it is, whether it's lack of direction, something wrong with the coaching, mental fortitude, whatever, because they did get C9 pretty brutally and everyone was pretty upset about that. Maybe the shock waves of that have just echoed and continued to affect them, you know?
Yeah. Which, I mean, I know they've been posting like tweets of like them sitting up till like midnight, like drinking, watching that C9.
Yeah,
over
I heard about that.
It's like, what? They're just replaying the moment.
Yeah, like midnight drinking, watching C9s. That doesn't seem like a team
healthy.
that's
not
moved
healthy.
on. It's like you're clinging to a bad breakup or something. It's just like you got to move on from your ex, bud.
You really have to. I mean, but who knows if that's really the reason there? Because I've just been so unimpressed with Justice too that the entire game just, to me, is just... It's just a visual mush. Yeah. I don't wish to think about it.
And it didn't like, I don't even really have any comments about the Justice because they just like
and
the Houston still managed to lose them.
I know. It's like they've had some flashes of brilliance.
Have they?
It's like just minuscule.
I mean, Tuba.
You know, like
Tuba and Genji.
If you were imagined to
what
the
else
Big Bang,
what else sticks to you as
like
a
that
flash
sort
of
minuscule,
brilliance?
like atomic level flash.
Okay, other than Tuba's Genji, what is like?
I felt like Stitch has actually had some okay moments on the Tracer in particular.
Okay does not equal flash of brilliance.
Well, okay, I should stay away from okay to pretty good. I do think that there's been some great moments with that. I think they've actually been able to utilize some interesting strategies at time of putting Arc on the Mercy and Aim God on the Xin, because Aim God Xin is fantastic. It's by far his best hero in my opinion.
For sure.
And Arc's Mercy is his best hero. So I do think they've tried to like recapture some moments there, but it's just all falls apart all the time. And it seems like their tank line, which is so weird because Janu was a really, really good tank. And it just goes to show you that in a different environment with different teammates, the best tank can be a non-factor.
I saw a Reddit thread after the weekend. Was it like, is Sato a top 3 main tank? It's like the thing that will always trigger me is people assuming that, you know, the team rankings 1 to 20 perfectly equates with the people who are best at main tank is also just like the same 1 to 20 list. It's like, no matter how good you are of a player, if you're on a bad team, you're going to look bad. And even mediocre players look great on championship teams. It's, yeah.
And there's also the reverse arguments. Like people try to be like, well, Myungbong still looks great on Boston. And I would say like, yes.
Yeah.
I would say yes. But also, Myungbong's talent is probably very different than like, we're never going to talk about the great players, like on average, like there's lots of good players, but they look bad on bad teams, you know?
Yes.
And so I think that we should adjust our expectations where the reality is much like any other sport, not every player is going to be LeBron.
No.
It's just not every player is going to be whatever is going to be Federer, you know? Like it's just not going to happen. It won't. And so, and 80 to 90, really 90% of the league will never be great. And that's just facts, whether it be inconsistencies, whether it be just the skill cap they have. And that's fine because they're still at the top of their field of playing. They're still at the best way they do. They had a lot of discipline to get there and to be the best teammate they can be, to understand the game at this level and to play it. But not everyone's going to be a superstar. And there's a very strong possibility that like the likes like Mailbag and Jerry who shine on Boston are Jerry's DPS player, so he gets to shine a lot because there's DPS, and B, Mailbag could just be a superstar. Not every player is going to be a superstar. And so when they go to bad teams, they're going to look a lot worse.
Yeah, and maybe some superstars just never get their time in the sun, right? Never get their chance to shine.
It's true. They could just be gone. Just disappeared.
Just maybe never even got a chance to showcase their talents.
I wouldn't really put myself in that category.
Why not?
I don't think so.
Nobody's going to be able to prove you wrong.
I was ever going to be a superstar,
Why not?
Jane.
Just dream big.
Because the reality is just I just probably wasn't
The man
going to
who
be.
believes he can and the man who believes he cannot are both right.
Well, I believe I can in other things, but probably not playing. Probably not playing. I think I found my path.
Yeah.
I have carved it out. I've treaded the road. I've wielded the machete against the jungle.
You should just stop trying to use idioms.
I mean, those aren't really idioms. Those are just more of like me making things up, right? Well, we talked about the games for this weekend. I'm excited for the games moving forward once we get out of hero pools. I'm also excited to hear back from our mailbag questions. Yes. I would like to hear some of the responses. You guys at home, you viewers at home at the Nielsen boxes, you were hitting the buzzers and you've sent us a lot of different
Didn't Avast lead Boston to a perfect stage? Avast, your comments?
True. I did do that, but the difference is that I don't gloat about it. I just simply have made a trophy and placed it upon my bedside table. And I've left it there. And I wear the medal sometimes underneath my clothes. And that's really it. I don't gloat about it, though.
No?
No. Not really a gloating type. So shall we get to mailbag?
Yes.
Shall we look at the responses?
So start us off.
What was it? Last week we asked about the changes to Moira.
Yes.
We asked about also, there was definitely someone else that we asked about too, and I can't even remember.
There was one comment from Chris on YouTube who says that, hello, I'm Australian. Can confirm we are no longer on fire due to the fact that we are deep in the middle of winter. So
wow.
He just wanted to let us know that
That's
Australia's
good.
not
That's a
on
good
fire.
update from Australia. Glad you guys are not crispy.
Can I get any confirmations this week from the Norwegians that their country actually exists? That'd be a good one.
I thought it was always Finland that everyone thought didn't exist. Was it Finland or Norway?
Well, for me, it's Norway.
Okay, for you, it's Norway. Also, I do have one in particular. There's a person that creates something called the Moira papers in my Discord.
The Moira papers?
And they re-edited it. And originally, when it was posted, it was 600 words, MLA formatted, Times New Roman 12-point font.
Double spaced?
But they, yes, double spaced.
Okay, perfect.
And they revised it to make it 850 words. And also, I did a first reading of it, and they used the word interactive a little bit too much. You don't want to have it just constantly hitting you.
Did they even use meta inertia once?
I don't know. But apparently, there's also a works cited in this version, and
bibliography,
quotes, and in-text citations. So I'm going to open up the contested mailbag, the revised version of the
is this like
papers.
a full document?
It is.
Holy moly. Wait, this is actually...
It is. See, there's a works cited. There's apparently a reference to Jane Conroy here. Yeah.
I'm getting... Yeah, okay.
There's something from me, too.
We're going to have to send that to Professor Avast.
I'm not going to read this whole thing. It's gotten only longer. But I will say that...
You're not going to read it? After all that?
It's way too long.
Can you do interpretive dance to represent it?
I would have to read it first. I would have to read it first to know what I'm going to interpret.
You're telling me that he went to all this work to send you an 850-word, just academic quality paper, and you didn't even read it?
Well, I skimmed.
You skimmed?
I skimmed.
Just like his professors at university, too. And probably used to it.
Pretty much, I can tell you that they hit a lot of the same points, though, that they did before, which was just Orb is not fun. It's not really...
It took him 850 words to say that.
In addition, Fade is, it's too hard to punish Fade, et cetera, et cetera. Too much AoE healing, blah, 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 blah. So here's what I'll say, is that we will... I promise you, the person that wrote this, their name is spelled SJUR_.
Yeah, he's in chat.
But they
he's
said pronounced similarly.
He just graduated high school. Congratulations, by the way.
Excellent formatting, then. You format your papers better on Moira, better than the engineering students in my classes that had to write technical papers. So
engineers can't write. I
was almost an engineer. Saying I can't write?
Well, society dodged a bullet on that one.
Wow. That's fair. Pronounced similarly to sure. So sure, here's what I'm going to tell you. I will deliver upon your papers. I will come back with your grade. So far, the effort is earning an A. And I've read the content before, and it's pretty solid. But I have to look at the revised editions, and come back to this and add it to the omnibus. So we're gonna come back, and I'll perhaps deliver you a more, as they say, interactive review of your papers. But I promise you, it is noted, and we will come back to you, sure, I promise. But the points, like I said, the bullet points is that Moira was not fun. Moira was pee-pee poo-poo. And that's really it. Also, if honestly, I'm looking through my Discord too, Jane.
Yeah.
I haven't really seen too many responses.
No, we had two longer responses on YouTube.
That's good. Would you like to go out? Because
sure.
People are posting like suited up ZP in my feedback channel, and I don't know why. This isn't a response.
But why not?
I mean, I understand the why not, but I'm asking the why.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't have an answer for you. But
how about you,
Vanilla Rice on YouTube did have an answer for us. And they say, I think the Moira changes are too strong, but the spirit of the experimentation should be appreciated. The last Moira changes that were included with the Genji buff, experimental, never made it through. So this recent change is not guaranteed either. Well, they've already withdrawn it, so yes, you're correct. People have complained the devs have not been using the experimental mode for bigger changes. Well, here is a big change. For bad players, the Moira change makes it so ults are less swingy, and by swingy, I mean completely irrelevant. For a healthy game state, I do not feel this is the right answer. Having the AoE cleanse is up there in power level with Baptiste's Immortality Field, an ability that is basically an ult on cooldown. If the Moira cleanse was a new ult experiment, I would be happier about the change. This kind of ability makes sense and goes in line with other support ultimates, plus her current ult is kind of boring in my opinion. That paragraph is something that we pretty much discussed on the episode. Yeah. Overall, a CC counter is a pleasant experiment because this would help against big Orisa halts or Mei freezes, but does not help with the effective health issues and contributes to the feeling of your damage and abilities just not being impactful. So overall, I agree, except for the part about the devs using experimental for bigger changes. They have used the experimental for bigger changes. You know, I think the main complaint is using it more frequently.
Yes.
Because we had this big 1 month break and then this change. So if they are going to kind of take feedback, it makes more sense to do more iterative changes and less kind of like, we are making a Moira game break.
And then putting out patches and then retracting the patches and just being like, no.
So there's probably a better way to do that.
There might be. There might be. I agree with the sentiments. And I felt like during this time, I felt like it was unfair for the paper. So I've gone ahead and done a more comprehensive rundown, and so I can highlight the points for us to discuss, actually, because I feel like it's only fair. I was thinking maybe we produce like a skit in the future about the paper.
We'll have to send it to the Contested Community College.
We would have, perhaps. But we can't do that on the fly right now. So perhaps later on we can do that for you. But let's just run through the actual thing. So literally in the paper, it says, yes, Moira, the pee-pee poo-poo character. That I knew that by heart because I had read it before. This is a line that had been reused from the first draft. In addition, really, here are the big changes they went from Moira. They feel like the orb bounces too much. It's too low impact. It's too low skill shot. And they did use their in-text citations here, quoting, as Mr. Avast, former Overwatch League pro, put it, it bounces. It bounces too. It's not just a one-pass thing. Like, you don't just dodge it once. It's not like a bullet hell, like Into the Gungeon or something. We just dodge the attacks and we're like, okay, good. It comes back again. It rebounds. Contested, parentheses.
That is actually
a great quotation, right? Yeah, really good.
But that's like word for word quote what you said on that episode.
Yeah.
I'm having deja vu
I know.
flashbacks.
I have had a lot of really quotable moments, honestly. I've been outdoing myself. So some of them are not appropriate to be repeated here, but I have to say that I have been doing pretty good on that front. But they feel like the orb is too non-interactive. They want it to be like a skill shot closer to Ana's nade or even the drone for Baptiste. Mm-hmm. And I feel like they feel like there should be an actual difference between a good Moira player using orb. And here's something where I actually diverge a bit from a lot of the common opinion. I actually think if you compare players like Alarm that plays Moira and how he uses orb, it is vastly different than bad Moira players. The timing that they choose to use an orb and where they choose to put it is actually a lot different than the majority of Moira players, especially, just in ranked in particular. Mm-hmm. But there is a science to it in terms of where you want to put it. Which characters are going to be low? Which of your teammates are going to be low? Do you want to optimize the bounce to make sure the geometry, because you can get the more bounces and more passes of the heal or damage out of it depending on the location. And when you do it as well in the fight is important for how you time your cooldown. So I do think there is a lot more depth than people really recognize with Moira's orbs, and people just like, orb killed me mad. Yeah. And they just smork out. But I think that is one thing that is actually a little bit underdeveloped in terms of like people's understanding of the orb a bit, because when Samito's slamming the desk and everyone's like, Moira orb.
Yeah, even so there's a YouTube series. Have you seen the YouTube series Spot the Smurf?
I have heard of it.
Yeah, okay. So Fran did a Spot the Smurf, and she was looking at Moira players, and she made the comment like that there's no difference between a Plat and a GM Moira. Like, Moira might be brain dead to play, and, pretty powerful considering how hard she is to play, but there is absolutely a difference between a Platinum and a GM Moira, and as well as just a GM Top 500 and Overwatch League Moira. There are absolutely differences and skills and techniques.
And it doesn't mean that it isn't still low skill floor, right?
It's just there's still a
with
difference.
A lot of reward, but there is a difference. And I feel like that's often overlooked because people just get really upset with it rather than understanding that honestly, you're complaining about it, but you haven't even unlocked its full potential. Your mind sphere has not been channeled with the other sphere, the Moira orb. So that's just how it is. They also wanted to have more utility and actually separate the utility from the healing a bit so that the fade is not one with the cleanse. The cleanse is a wholly separate thing from fade, but there should still be a cleanse ability with like a longer cooldown of like 10 to 15 seconds. So I do, and also they like to add in at the end that they have not really touched Moira much often in the past few seasons, which leads to my other point about people complaining when they don't really play it that much. But I do think these are all reasonable changes. Those are the bullet points, the highlights of the Moira papers. The rest we will be sending into the journal to be posted in the morning news.
We should start a journal.
Yeah, I think so.
Overwatch
an
journal.
Almanac, maybe.
What?
Moira, like an Overwatch
the only almanac
almanac
I'm aware of is the Farmer's Almanac.
Yeah, it's like a bunch of.
Isn't that like
tricks.
weather predictions?
Not always. No, it had like tips and tricks and like
what's wrong
little
with the
things.
journal? What's
I
wrong?
don't know. I feel like an almanac sounds cooler.
Okay, we'll call it an almanac just for you.
Call it an almanac. I feel like it sounds a little bit cooler.
I feel like an esports almanac would like predict game results based off of like astrology.
I think it just depends on what you find once you open inside the almanac.
Is Sagittarius in the eastern sky? Did you hear that NASA actually created a 13th constellation?
NASA.
Words. Okay.
Nasa.
It's the British pronunciation.
Well, that's Mailbag. So overall,
I've got one more.
Oh, do you want to do one more?
Just because your Discord is dead doesn't mean YouTube had gone. I didn't even check out. You could check the Contested Podcast subreddit.
That's true, but I generally how we've been doing it. So breaking it down is I've been going through my Discord, and then you've been collating the rest. So being you and Mike, the producer.
Yeah.
Well, let's hear the other one.
Okay. The other comment that we had was the Shant man, and he says, "They say, no assumptions here.
They say
this Moira change nerfs nearly all tanks. Huge shatter equals fade, no follow up. Bomb, fade. 6-man grabber flux, fade. Skillfully juggles or hook and whole hog into a corner, fade. This person is now behind you. LOL. Pile driver setup combo, fade. Fade them enemy toes are staying on the ground because Moira reacted to the animation and faded. Tired of the enemy team killing you or stunning you out of brain-dead smooth-brained ults and reses with their pesky skills or reaction? Just tell your Moira and drop yourself directly in the middle of the team. As long as your Moira can count down and fade to you, there's no way the enemy team can possibly outplay you unless they have a Moira who's going to fade. Which they will, because now she counters everything except fade.
So pretty much fade bad.
Fade
bad, but fade. I think we've all agreed based off the feedback from you guys and our own thoughts that utility must be separate from fade.
I think
that's like the most baseline thing that everyone's agreeing with here. All Redditor Joneses reporting and upvoting to the left and giving gold to kind strangers can all agree that we want to separate utility and fade.
Yeah.
They should be two separate things. Also, Moira's kit should probably be more delineated in ways that
just
like you have to make more choices.
Third orb. Give her a heal orb, a damage orb, and a cleanse orb.
Getting dangerously close to like Aphelios territory in League, We're getting dangerously close.
Everything's orbs.
Where it was just like, just look at the color of the orb and know what's going to happen.
Chad is like, how about we don't do that?
There just has to be a lot more delineation with her kit, and utility needs to be added. Cleanses are important. Everyone that's been submitted an answer is like, we need to have cleanses, but they can't be part of fade. So there is our summary. There's our
Please just give me a shaman hero with totems that I can place everywhere.
I would love
I've been wanting a shaman hero forever.
I would love totems.
Totems would be fun.
So now that moves on to what our mailbag for this the Thursday
we have
episode
to have a mailbag for this week.
We do.
Huh.
I believe we decided on one.
Did we?
In the pre-show,
So
yes.
we did. I've forgotten about it. In one ear, out the other. Just like the rest of the things you say.
Well, we didn't get it also. It was sort of related to, it was team related.
Was it?
It was about the Chengdu. It was about we spun the wheel of Chengdu.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Yes, it was. Do you remember what it is?
Nope.
Okay. Well, we spun the wheel of Chengdu earlier, and we're asking you now. We're passing the wheel on to you to spin to be like, does Chengdu do they look strong enough currently? Can they advance? Can Amon learn a new hero enough? When hero pools go away and Orisa and May are back, can they still be strong? Can they still be a team that empowers the fans everywhere for you guys to cheer? Well, you'll cheer anyways, even if they lose. But the point being is like, can they still be as good as they've been looking once Orisa's back and once May is back? And that's going to be what we're asking you guys, is that we've heard your cries on Moira, but now about your cries on Chengdu. And you can put them in the usual places, my Discord, the YouTube comments when the video goes out in the Envytv channel, also in the r/contested subreddit.
In the comment section of the review that you leave on Apple Podcasts and Spotify.
Also true. Also
5
true.
stars, of course.
Can do that as well. So you have a lot of different options, but we want to hear what all you Chengdu lovers have to say.
And there better only be Chengdu lovers in the chat.
Or non-Chengdu lovers. You can be people that really don't like Chengdu and just say like, no, actually, I don't think they'll be good. And that's fine. We'll read it too.
That's not allowed. No. Chengdu fans only.
How would you know? You won't. You won't know.
I mean, if they speak up, we're going to deal with it.
Don't raise your voices too loud then. Just put your feedback. But I think that's that's the close of us, right?
Yeah.
And we're out of it.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Today was Tuesday. We'll be back on Thursday at 5 p.m. Central for your preview of the last weekend before the playoffs of the Countdown Cup. No hero pools. So we will read your mailbag questions there. Looking forward to more academic papers that this time Avast will actually read and grade.
I've skimmed it and I read it. I did both.
Did you assign a grade though?
The final draft of the Moira papers by Sure gets A+.
Just
A+ for effort. I like the formatting. It was academically done. It had proper quotes, works cited and everything. In addition, they properly elaborated their points. I don't always have to agree with them, but a good professor doesn't always have to agree with every point. It just is talking about how well the paper is written. So A+.
I'm still amazed people are getting points for effort at this level. But anyway, I hope you're going to...
It's intro level.
It's intro level. He's high school. It's not even 101. Yeah. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. As I said, we'll be back on Thursday. To those of you who are watching live on Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch, I hope you guys enjoyed the show. My name is Jane. This is Avast, and we'll see you on Thursday.